Welcome to the Money Hour. I love it. We already have one viewer. We just started. So, my name is Jessica Nelson, and the intention of the Money Hour is to help realtors to do more deals. Something all of us are aware of is the market has changed. No matter how you feel about politics, no matter what you think about the economy, you would be blind not to see that the real estate market has indeed changed. In 2008 or 2024, when do you think more transactions were completed? This is a question for the audience. Drop the answer below. When do you think more transactions were completed in the United States? In the year 2008 or the year 2024? Curious to see what everyone thinks. So we actually did less transactions in 2024, which means that if you're a real estate agent, your personal economy is obviously affected. So, how can you have more strategies to do more deals? And the intention today is to give you guys a new tool. So, I have with me a very intelligent gentleman, and he has a very interesting accent. You guys know I've had Milwaukee here, I have had New Jersey here. We've had all types of accents, but this is a new one. I'm going to let everyone guess where you're from, Richard.
Okay.
See what they guessed, because I was completely wrong.
What did you guess?
I can't say because they might guess it too,
Oh,
right?
there you go. There you go. Yeah. I'll just say something like, "How now, brown cow? The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog." That should be enough.
That should be enough. Let's see what they think. So, audience, wherever you think Richard is from, go ahead and drop it in the comments. Richard has a very interesting product. He's with Cross Country Mortgage, and I was not familiar with what this is. So, I wanted to be able to ask the questions that probably all of you have. And so, all of us could get more information about reverse mortgages and how reverse mortgages can help you to do more deals. So Andrew just said Aussie. You're close, Andrew. Let's see what else did. So we got Aussie so far. Go ahead, Richard. Go ahead.
Andrew's on the wrong side of the Tasman Sea. Tell him that.
So Richard, why don't you introduce yourself? Let's start with.
Let's get going. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So my name is Richard Stewart, and I work for Cross Country Mortgage. Cross Country Mortgage decided to get serious about reverse mortgages about 2 years ago and set up a division within Cross Country Mortgage called Reverse One. Now, the reason they did that is the reverse mortgage, particularly the reverse mortgage for purchase, is a different sort of product, has a different procedure, so it makes sense to have specialists working on the loan. And the neat thing is the reverse specialists are people like me who have done nothing but reverses for over a decade, but all the way through the organization, we have our loan processors, our loan coordinators, they're all reverse experts. So it makes it makes my life a lot easier, let me tell you. But Jessica, thank you so much for having me on.
He got it right. Andrew said New Zealand. You got it right.
There you go. But accents aside, by the time you and I are done here, I'm convinced that our listeners will understand that there is a way to list and sell more homes with reverse mortgages for purchase. It's a bold boast, I know, but I believe I can follow through. So
I'm excited about this. Richard, what would you say is the biggest myth that you hear about reverse mortgages, and why do you feel you're still hearing it in 2025?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm a full-time reverse mortgage specialist, but I tell people I'm half reverse specialist and half myth buster. I spend a lot of my time busting myths, and I would say the biggest one that I have to deal with, people worry that a reverse mortgage involves surrendering their home. It's an either-or proposition. Either I give Richard my home and I get some money out of my house, or, I don't follow through on the option. The answer, Jessica, is that we're not the slightest bit interested in your house. We just want to loan you some money and charge you a bit of interest like any lender. I wish I had $1 for every time I've said this phrase, but it's just a mortgage. Honestly, people overcomplicate a simple program. But the biggest concern people have is that a reverse mortgage means surrendering their title. No, I go on title just like any mortgage. The only difference is you don't have to make payments on a reverse mortgage. So my loan balance is going to go up. But when the home is sold, the loan balance gets paid, and whatever's left over goes to the seller. It could be the heirs, and many times it's the people that are just moving on to another property. Does that answer it?
I want to make sure I understand this correctly, because I don't think that many realtors and even consumers understand this. So let's say, you happen to buy a property that's a great value. You know that you're stealing this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that you're buying it in an area that's only going up. Essentially, maybe you buy that thing for $350, and in 10 years you sell it for $650.
Okay.
The mortgage could be $600 at that time, and you could have not paid anything on it. Is that right?
Yeah, no, the mortgage wouldn't be anywhere. Using your scenario, I can, I'd need an amortization schedule, but more likely, so they bought, let's say their loan balance was $200,000 to make it easy, because they bought a $350,000 house, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So in your scenario, let's say they had to they borrowed $200,000, and what's going to happen over time is that even though they have the option to make payments, they don't have to. So that loan balance is going to grow. But, 10 years down the track, that loan balance might be, let's call it 300. It's not exactly that. It may well be less. So at that time, we're owed 300. So the house gets sold. We get paid our 300. Running with your scenario here, that would mean the check to the seller was 350, right?
So could this be a good product for someone other than the elderly?
Well, it depends on be careful, because I'm getting towards qualifying for reverse mortgages, and I don't want to be called elderly at this point. But this is
the word that most people think of when they hear reverse mortgage.
No, of course they do. I'm just teasing you. But you have to be 62 or older. If you're a couple, only one of you have to be 62 to qualify for the government-insured FHA reverse mortgage, which is called a home equity conversion mortgage. Now, we do have proprietary programs now that go all the way down to 55.
Okay.
So there is an age. Yeah, the answer to your question is it's not necessarily, a lot of people in their 60s don't consider themselves elderly, but it's
neither do people in their 50s. Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So but from Nick's perspective, who's just joined us, 60 is 1 foot in the grave, right, Nick? But
yes,
for those of us who are staring down that age, we think we're just getting started here.
So, in your opinion, Richard, why would you consider this specific product an untapped gold mine?
So the senior population last year, the 62 to 75 group, they're the people with all the money. If you look at the graph, they are the ones holding the wealth. But as importantly, last year they purchased 38% of all homes that were purchased in America. So if you're ignoring the senior market, you're ignoring, well over a third of the market. So it's not something I don't believe a realtor has the luxury of doing. So that may be a cash purchase, or, the loan that you and I are going to talk about is a loan that enables them to buy more home without monthly payments. But you use the term, gold mine. That's why, because there's literally trillions of dollars of wealth being held in the equity in seniors' homes. And, over time, they have paid into a Social Security account, and now many of them are drawing that. they've paid into a 401k account, and now they might be drawing that. But their entire life, they were forced to make one more payment, and that was their mortgage. And yet, if you don't use any of the money, if you don't turn some of that equity into cash, it's kind of a lazy asset. And the prevailing thought these days is that the equity in your home as a senior should seriously investigate using that as an integral part of your retirement plan. I could go all day just on that, so I'm going to move off that one. But
and I've heard you say that there's power of double buying power. What do you mean by that?
By double buying power?
Yes. Can you walk? So before you said that reverse for purchase loans, go ahead.
Not quite double, but the example with a reverse mortgage for purchase. So there's regular reverse mortgages. The one that the realtors can really use to their advantage is the reverse purchase. So I determine how much a customer has to put down by their age, the value of the home, and the prevailing interest rate. Okay. And that's not my calculation. That's a calculation made by HUD, how much they're comfortable insuring. So if it was a 50-50 in today's market, it would have to truly be someone who was elderly. But what they would do, let's say you found them a beautiful home in a plus 55 community, and they sold the family home, and let's say after they paid off the mortgage and what have you, they had, just for the sake of the exercise, they had $300,000. So now they've got you out there looking for a $300,000 home, and they're hating what's available. They were hoping to retire in something much, much nicer. So now you take them to a plus 55 community. A dollar goes a long way down there in Texas, and I'm sure you could find them a lovely home for $550,000. Well, in that particular scenario, they would qualify for a reverse purchase. And here's what would happen. Based on their age and the value of that home, I would be prepared, this is the double power thing, to loan them half the value of that home or half the purchase price. So in that scenario, I'll write a reverse mortgage for what we have for. So that's going to be 275. Is my math right? For 275, and then they're going to put down 275. All right. So I'm going to write a reverse mortgage for 275 based on the value of the home and their age. But the cool thing is they don't have to make payments, right? And remember, I'm sure you're aware of this, but particularly for retirees, cash flow is king. Okay, so to not have a mortgage payment is really, really important. But now they were looking at something around $300,000, but you just put them in a $550,000 house, and they still have $25,000 left over from that $300,000 they got from the sale of their home. Did you follow that?
Did you mute it? There you go.
Yeah, I had to mute myself because my cleaning ladies showed up.
Sounds like 2 syllables.
So that's really interesting because then they can use that money to do upgrades. If they have other debts they need to pay off, they could use that then.
Yeah,
or no?
Absolutely. Well, the other prevailing thought is it's kind of interesting. People sometimes will say, well, that's all very well and good, Rich, but the 275 reverse mortgage is the loan balance is increasing, kind of eroding the equity to a degree, which is true, but depending on how quickly the home appreciates. But that 275 can be used to clear some debt. They could move 200 of it to a financial planner who can double that in 10 years. And the nice thing about having assets under management,
Hold on a minute. Can you say that one more time? Because I want to make sure everyone heard what you just said. Repeat that, please.
So in our scenario, they paid $275 to get into a $550,000 house, right? So if somebody had enough money and was planning on buying a $550,000 home for cash, and the reason why people pay cash primarily is so they don't have a monthly payment.
Mm-hmm.
What I can do is when this particular loan closes, they're going to get 275 from Cross Country Mortgage. This is the seller, and they'll get another 275 from the buyer, and that's their down payment. But from a cash flow perspective, they don't owe any mortgage payments. So if we're looking at cash flow, they're in the same situation as their neighbor who paid 550. Okay, so my reverse mortgage balance is going to go up, but they have the luxury of now they've got 275 that they didn't have to use that they were planning on using. This is a scenario where they have all the cash. What they could do with that is move that over into an investment account.
So this is the part I wanted to make sure everyone heard. Go ahead.
Right. So now I'm walking. Now I've got what they call house money, right? I've got $275,000 that I'd planned to put into this house until I started talking about reverse purchases. So why not use that don't take that 275, give it to a financial planner who should be able to double that money every 10 years. So in the meantime, the fact that the loan balance is going up and eroding the equity really is offset by the fact that you've got this money appreciated in another account, which is far more accessible. It's easier to access assets under management than it is equity.
That right there. I really want to make sure people understand what you're saying, because that is the true value right there. You can access your money and do better things with it and not be tied up. When you're like a lot of people who retire, what is their number one thing they want to do? They want to travel. They want to enjoy the grandkids. And so this gives them the opportunity to play with their money and not have to worry about, what's going to happen with my house payment.
Yeah, and have it all tied up in the house payment. And then, if all your equity is tied up in that house and you need some of the equity, home equity lines of credit, if that was what they were thinking, they're very hard to qualify for, aren't they, Nick? Are you writing many HELOCs right now?
A lot of people want them, but a little bit tougher. But yes, sir, this could be another option to that, definitely.
HELOCs were very hot in 2020, not so much 2025 with the changes in rates.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I really want to make sure that agents understand the power in that, because what happens for your client, based on what Richard is saying, they could buy that house. It's maybe a little too expensive, but they just really like it and not have to worry about, well, goodness, we don't have this money to play with. So this is a great product to help solve that problem for them. For agents to explain this to their clients, what would be the easiest way for them? Because, you're very intelligent and you understand financials. The average agent doesn't even know what ROI means. I'm not even kidding you. If you were to ask 7 out of 10 agents, tell me the definition of ROI, they would be like, oh, what? So can you give us like a very simple...
How do they go again? How do they do it again?
Oh, what?
That's awesome.
I mean, something very simple that is easily digestible for an agent to explain to a client.
Okay, so what I just got done with a room full of folks out here in Chicago, and as I pointed out to them, you only have to know enough about this product to be dangerous, because the key is, as a realtor, is the reason why me and Nick don't try and list and sell homes is because we'd be terrible at it, right? So you taking that full circle or half circle, I ask realtors, I'm like, don't try and sell the loan, just sell the appointment.
Okay.
And a good line that a lot of my realtors use is they say, look, I had the wrong opinion about reverses. I understand you've got some concerns. Why don't we just listen to what Richard's got to say with an open mind? And then I'll talk to them for half an hour, but they get pretty excited once they find out that, it's like, well, we're going to have $400,000 when we leave the family home. We want some money left over. So we're really looking at homes at around $250,000. And then you get to say, well, what's your motivation for doing that? Well, first of all, we don't want a monthly payment. And secondly, we're not sure we'd qualify. So then what I would be chatting to them about, it's like, well, have you considered using that 250 and putting that towards a $400,000 house and with some money left over? It just gives them a lot more buying power.
I love this. All right, agents, I want to make sure that you really caught what he just said. The easiest thing for you to do, don't sell the loan products, right? Let the professional do it. So the best thing to do is get your client in a conversation with Nick and Richard at Cross Country Mortgage. And you can service anyone anywhere in the country, right?
Yep. And just
Okay.
when I say set up an appointment, Zoom meetings just work perfectly because I can bring up the figures on the screen. I can bring up the case studies are good for highlighting, how this program works. I've got God knows how many feel good stories. It's a fantastic product. I mean, I keep telling people I live in Denver and my wife's anxious to live in the foothills. They don't give real estate away in the foothills, and I really don't want a mortgage in retirement either. So my plan is just to keep paying extra on my mortgage so that when I sell that home, I have plenty of equity. Then maybe, as an example, I sell the home, I've got 600 equity. Now I can buy $1 million home and still have no monthly payments. So I'm happy because I'll put 600 down, the reverse will pay the other 400. So I'm happy. My wife's happy because she's living in $1 million home. I'm happy because I don't have to make mortgage payments. Now, Jessica, if I was older, as you get older, that down payment becomes less. So if I was in my early 80s, my down payment's going to be more like 40%.
Okay.
The reason I said 60% is that, when I do qualify, it's going to be the youngest you can be. Like you know what I mean? It's on a continuum.
Sure.
I guess what I'm saying is I'm old, but not old enough, ironically enough.
Okay, so how can realtors use this to set themselves apart?
So this is such an opportunity for your realtors. I sent you that video, which I hope you'll distribute to your group. And that's the nice thing about that is that's from the Housing Wire. It's not from me. People may think if I do a video, first of all, he's a lot smoother than I am, but he makes the same points that I make. It's an exciting product. God knows why, but people don't talk about it. So, I tell everybody this. How many people right now are living in the family home, paying the remnants of their mortgage, who don't even realize they have the option to get out of that home and move into a much nicer community, closer to the golf course, near a pool for the grandkids, all that good stuff. And they can absolutely do it. Sell the family home, pay off the mortgage. We've got $300,000 left. Let's go and find a $500,000 home, which we can buy and not have any monthly payments. So circling back to your original question, what would I say if I was a realtor? My message would be, have you considered looking into buying a home with a reverse mortgage with no monthly payments?
Perfect.
Stop there. And then we can.
Have you considered buying a home with no monthly payments and just shush?
Reverse mortgage with no monthly payments. Yeah.
And doubling your buying power.
And what are some misconceptions you hear a lot? Like I've heard, oh, well, you're just passing off the buck to your heirs. Can you explain that a little bit for our viewers?
You're just passing off the buck to your heirs?
Yes. So maybe that's a American saying.
No, I know what that means. I've been here since I've been here longer than you've been alive, I think.
Some people do feel like this product is just, leaving a lot of debt for whoever inherits the property.
So I'm glad you brought that up. First of all, with a reverse mortgage, it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, you can be at a point where the home is worth less than the loan balance. Okay. So people worry it's like, well, if there can be a negative balance and mum passes away, are you saying someone's going to be chasing me and my siblings for $50,000 or whatever? The answer is you can't have a negative balance with an FHA reverse mortgage. because everybody pays into a mortgage insurance fund, and that's the fund they use to take care of any negative balances.
So if you pass, or not you, let's say
Thank
Ethel,
you.
Grandma
Ethel?
Ethel passes, and daughter Veronica has to deal with settling out the estate. Now the mortgage that's left on this property is $215,000.
Mhm.
Veronica doesn't have to deal with that $215,000.
Well, is the deficiency balance 215 or the balance is 215?
Explain to me what the difference in those terms is.
Huge difference. So if the loan balance is 215,000, right, and the home is worth 400, Veronica would be crazy not to call you and have you list the home so you can sell it and she can take a quick $100,000. If, and this would be a big if, maybe her mum lived till she was 105, and in the meantime, the difference between the home value and the loan was $215,000. In other words, the loan balance had climbed $215,000 higher than what the home is worth. Nobody in that scenario, nobody owes any money. The insurance fund will pay that negative balance. In fact, in that scenario, Veronica would still have the option to buy the house if she wanted it at 95% of appraised value, no matter how bad the negative balance. I will say though, just
that is huge.
Yeah, isn't it though? Yeah.
And I don't think people really understand that, because what our common misconception would be is, okay, Ethel passes, the house is worth $350,000, there's $210,000 left on it, and they think that they have to pay off the $210,000 or vice versa, like if it's underwater. So that's just really good to know. By the way, if people haven't met Nick yet, Nick is here in Dallas. He's one of our strongest partners. If you haven't met Nick Hancock yet, please, Nick, drop your phone number or a number where they can reach you, or your email in the chat. Nick has been working with some of the top agents here in Dallas. If you know any social media influencers, chances are you've seen Nick's face with the key at the closing table. What's up, Nick? Say hello.
Hey, Jessica, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity and that amazing introduction. This is great, getting out to spread the word a little bit. We're always here, happy to help people buy a home. This is just another avenue, another tool for a realtor's tool belt, and one that I really think and agree with everything that Richard said, that this is very untapped and something that we wanted to get out for everybody to know about. And again, it's a simple introduction for what Richard said. If we could just help set up a conversation, and once you know about it, then it's there for you. So I thought this would be a great opportunity. Thank you, Jessica, too. And
yeah, it's my pleasure. So I often go to like real estate conferences, as you guys know, where people from all over the world are attending. And what's interesting is that, and a lot of people don't know this, not every country has loan products. Some countries, the only way that you can purchase a home is to go there with that full amount of cash, which,
wow, really?
Yes, which makes it very difficult to become a homeowner in some parts of the world. So what we're talking about today is just another creative way that someone can have more assets and access to their capital, freeing up your money to do whatever it is you want to do with it. And what's beautiful about this product is we're talking about the older generation. These are people who worked their whole life. They've put blood, sweat, and tears, and they actually deserve to get a little break. They deserve to enjoy their money and have it too.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, if you look at the stats, most seniors are holding their net worth. They talk about having a average net worth, I believe people in their early 70s is like $220,000, but you take away the house and it's about 40. Everyone's holding their equity in their house because it was forced savings, wasn't it? It's like, if you've got a retirement plan or and money's a bit tight, well, you just don't pay that month. But You don't have that option with your mortgage. So you find the money, don't you, to pay for the mortgage. In the meantime, you're building this big asset, but unless you release some of the equity, it's not really having much of an impact, particularly if you're still making a mortgage payment. But I think it's a huge opportunity for realtors because, where else can you create listings with people that hadn't even thought about selling their house until they started talking to you? They're like, man, I didn't even think about that. When I say there's 10,000 people turning 62 every day, that's also 20,000 knees and 20,000 hips are turning 62 every day. Walking up and down stairs can start to be a real challenge. And you get them single living home, what do they call that, a ranch style home or something like that. Mm-hmm. Life gets a lot easier.
Sure does. So, and you're right. A lot of people do. They decide to stay there because they think, well, I'm not working, so I don't have income. They think, well, I'm just stuck here. And this is a product that we could offer them to, one, get the listing, what's in it for the realtor, one, get the listing, and then also help a client to get out of a situation. Nick, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but sometimes we go into homes where there's, 3,000 square feet and the top floor, they haven't been up there in 10 years.
Right.
Like, they couldn't even tell you if there's a dead animal up there. They haven't been up there at all. And for people like that, this is a really great opportunity for them to, who wants to heat and cool and insure and all those things on a house that when you could be in a better position, but you felt stuck maybe, right?
Right.
So this is awesome. What are some power? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say you have a lot of people who are in that family home and only because, they think it's fine and they didn't realize they had other options. But, often the yard's too big. That's a pain in the butt. It's an older home things break. And then as a realtor, now that you show that they have an option that they didn't know they had, and now you go and show them homes built in the last 5 years and, it's got the new leather smell, so to speak, and it's got the community. That's a big deal, man. Companionship as you get older is very, very important. So a lot of these communities have the clubhouse with activities and what have you. So I don't feel putting someone like this in a home would be too tough. It's just selling the idea, I think. And also, I could hold you here all day with case studies of loans I've closed using this product. And it's just so much fun. Everyone's just so excited.
Yeah, it seems like the type of product that once you do it once, you'll become hooked on it. You just kind of got to get through that initial first one to know, oh, that's how it works.
Yeah,
that's a really good point.
Like Nick and I, we do some construction loans. And the first time someone used it, it was very confusing. I was like, it's not appraised on today's value. It's appraised on the after value. Nick was like, listen, here's what we're going to do. He walked me through the whole thing. But once you learn something new like that, you can continue to duplicate. And it helps you guys as agents to not only service your clients better, which is the name of the game. That's what we're supposed to be doing. It also helps your personal economy so that you can be more profitable, no matter what's going on, because everyone has a different need. Richard, what are some powerful questions or like low pressure tactics, strategies a realtor could use to ask a 62 or higher age homeowner to open the door for them to start talking about reverse for purchase?
Oh, that's a tough one. You mean like people out there who are the brave people out there door knocking?
Door knocking, cold calling. What would be a good conversation starter for them?
I'm not a door knocker. I'm trying to think. Nick, help me out here.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me rephrase it.
With no monthly payment and a chance to double your buying power. What if you got an opportunity to upgrade into that new community, and just giving that opportunity for those who may be there? I think identifying the problem, first, maybe it's moving from this 2-story home to a 1-story, or into a place that has higher HOA dues that, that they may not be able to come up with.
Which is very common in 55 and overs, by the way. For those who, haven't really worked this part of the market, a lot of 55 and overs and a lot of older lifestyle communities, the landscaping is done for them, and the HOAs can be $250, $300, $400 a month. So that's a really good point, Nick. If you're not working, that can be difficult to do every month. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. I think it's just that hook. What if we can get you in without paying a payment going forward, and having that conversation with as many people as possible. Title companies can help produce lists. Talk with those that you have, your preferred title companies, who can help you generate those lists for your cold calling agents who are going after it. So they're not having the same FSBO conversation, the same expired conversation on their morning prospecting calls. You have opportunities to expand that call list with people who are not being bombarded. And then just that little sinker, question that we said, I don't think you have to put it much beyond that. That'd be a thought.
That's a good answer.
That's a great answer. We have a question here in the chat. Any advice for people who want to start door knocking for their career? Doran, based on what Richard has shared and what Nick has shared, it sounds like some opportunities would be to, is there a way that you can search in title searches how old a homeowner is?
Certain title companies have that information.
I'm actually in a title company's office right now. You can, I'll talk to Ray about it, but very inexpensively, if at all, a good parameter to order is single family home, just make it easy on yourself, or townhome, or condos, but just for the time being, do townhome and single family home, one homeowner 62 or older, home equity 50% or better. And then just mail in. But I was thinking about your door knocking thing while Nick was there. How's this for an idea? So a few blocks away, there's a one level house being listed. It's an open house, or it's being sold. You could go around the neighborhood introducing yourself and just saying, I don't know if you noticed that home over on such and such. Do you know that can be purchased with no monthly payments using a reverse mortgage? Here's how something like that works on that house, and start the conversation that way. But I think the hook for a realtor is like, did you know that you can buy a home with no monthly payments using a reverse mortgage? But I know a friend of mine has good luck. He's a door knocker too, but he likes to knock where there's an open house. And even if it's not his, he just says, I'm just knocking because there's we're doing an open house here recently. Who cares? I mean, what are your people, Jessica runs a tight ship over there. What are you, when someone opens the door, what are you saying right now?
I really like what you said, because we have to narrow down the client, right? Like, we can't be asking a 28-year-old newlywed who just moved into the area, hey, do you want, have an interest in a reverse mortgage? They're going to look at you like you're crazy. So I think what you said is impactful. Get with a title company. Doran, I don't know what market you're in. Some markets, they use attorneys, like title fee attorneys, to close deals. Like New Jersey, where I'm from, realtors generally don't speak directly with title. So whoever is, could get you access to that information, get the list. And I would probably warm up the neighborhood by calling and asking them, are they familiar with this product? Is moving into a home that's single story or that's less maintenance something that they would benefit from? And then I would go out and door knock and talk to them. Hey, I called you. Do you remember? They're probably going to be like, no, because nobody remembers talking to strangers. And then ask them again, but at least they'll have some familiarity. I think that the main points when you're speaking to someone in this, target product is, what are their pain points? So Richard touched on it. So did Nick. What are their pain points? Maybe they don't want to go up and down the stairs. Maybe they don't want to do all the yard work. Maybe 5,000 square feet is just too much for them. I would stick to, how is your life going to improve by making this move? And ask them questions around lifestyle, because I've noticed it with a lot of older people. It's not necessarily about the money. Like, if you go out door knocking, you're like, hey, your neighbor just got 700. What if you could get that? That may not interest them. They might be like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm happy, right? But if you started talking to them about, well, where do your grandkids live? Do you want to go to their games all the time?
Mm-hmm.
Does it make you sad that you don't get to see them more often? Start talking to them about what they care about, and then see if there's a way that you can solve a problem for them. That's likely going to be the way that you can, gain some traction with leads in that particular space. And to really think about your client.
I was thinking that, if you do, once you get a conversation going, a question, something along the lines of, if we could wave a magic wand, what part of town would you be living in?
That's a great question.
If they say something like, oh man, I'd like to be living over on the west side of town because my grandkids are over there and it's just a bit nicer, blah, blah, blah. Well, and then you start putting the numbers together. It's like, man, this might be something we can talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, I will tell you, for someone who's in the trenches, I should start. It's a bit of a invasion of privacy, so I don't do it. But I would love to video some of these closings. I mean, everyone's just so excited. I did one in Utah the other day. The guy bought a $998,000 brand new home from Toll Brothers, and it was he's in his late 70s, and so is his wife, and they are just so excited. And they had to put like about $570,000 down, I want to say, and that was pretty much all they had from the sale of the family home. I think Ryan had to kick in an extra 20 from some savings, but now they're driving home to $1 million brand new Toll Brothers house, with all the bells and whistles. They're so excited they can't help themselves. It's awesome.
And they don't have to pay for it every month.
No monthly payment.
The equity's still there.
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. I'm with you, Jessica. That's what I'm saying. Why? Why are you not doing that, you people? By the way,
why am I not 62 already?
Yeah. No, don't wish that on yourself. But to all you door knockers out there, much respect. You guys are the warriors of the sales world. I think it's wonderful that you can do that.
Yeah. You know what? You get fresh air. You get to help people. It's not as bad as you think. It's a lot better.
I like
it. I really enjoyed this. I'm noticing the time. I wanted to give Nick, if you wouldn't mind, just sharing with all of us some products that you're seeing working in today's market, given the challenges that we're having with interest rate complaints. What are you seeing as, ways to get buyers over the closing line?
I think it's being as creative as possible and seeing that this is an opportunity to do it. Just this past week, a couple closings, one deal that they're going to start paying for the next 12 months, 2.75% in interest rate. So the idea that high rates are here and there's no way to buy a home, they're going to be paying 2.75% on a house.
How do you do that?
With a temporary buy down is what we're doing. So this rate will never exceed 5.75%, but for the next 3 years, they get to enjoy lower interest rates. So 2.75, 3.75, and a 4.75% interest rate for this buyer. First-time home buyer under 30, they get a chance to come in, manageable payments. So awesome. that was a really good opportunity for that couple.
And how much?
Say that again.
Never mind. Sorry.
We do it from the market that we're in, and the opportunity that working with excellent real estate agents who know how to go in and negotiate a deal and get concessions for our clients, getting money from the seller to help cover certain costs, so that we can apply these here.
I was just about to ask you how much that costs.
That one probably about $18,000 in concession from the seller. I think it was right at 18,000.
Okay.
But finding a way to get a seller to cover that gives a buyer opportunity to save $500, $600, $700 for the first couple years. Makes a big difference in what they can get into, what they can save and pay off.
You know, as a listing agent, we see so often that out of ego purposes, a seller will be like, no issue with paying an $18,000 concession, but won't cut $1 of their price.
It really is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've noticed that.
This is great.
I don't think it's very few if so, but haven't closed a deal without concessions in over a year, I'd say, really, where the sellers are helping out. And that's not to talk about the market, but that's talking about being creative with an approach to help the buyer get into what they need. So it's opportunity. So that, and asking products, being able to help people who it's tax season right now. Everyone's the self-employed business owners or real estate agents who haven't bought a home themselves. Maybe one of the best things to do is to help a real estate agent purchase a home. In a way that we can help do that a lot of times are through these extra programs that we have that look at just your 1099s or only your bank statements, rather than your standard financing or going through and filing taxes. So those could be some additional things that hopefully some people listen to this call, they want to get into a home themselves, don't think that it's possible with some of the things they might have heard. Never sell yourself short.
What is the rate on something like that?
It's going to be a little bit higher. It's a higher risk to the lender, but and there's a lot of things that go into rates, but I mean, maybe in the 7s, 8s, maybe on some, maybe on some.
When I purchased the house I'm in right now, March last year, I was quoted in the 10s on that product.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't know you yet. I wish I had.
Yeah.
Ended up, even though I could have bought the house twice in cash, it was so difficult to get a loan as a realtor and a 1099 employee. I ended up just paying cash for it. I was so exhausted with the whole thing.
It can be as simple now as turn in your 1099s. We take 90% of that 1099 number. That 90% number could be your qualifying income, and put as little as 10% down. So things like that are very unique, here to this with those parameters, and it might help some of that flexibility a little bit. But yes, ma'am, those would be a few of the products, and without getting too far into it.
I hate that I didn't meet you until May. I'm going to have to yell at Melissa and Jonathan.
It's been a great year though, right? We're coming up on a year now. So amazing.
Yeah.
It's been awesome.
It sure has.
You must be doing something right over there, Jessica, if you're running around buying homes for cash.
Well, I'll tell you what I did. Talk about taking an older person's advice. My grandfather taught me. He said, you buy in the best neighborhood you can and you get the worst house possible.
Yeah.
And, most women, we want things that are shiny and pretty, and we don't necessarily buy things that are the best value. So I've always kept my grandfather's thoughts in my head. And when we first moved here from New Jersey to Dallas, I bought a complete, utter, disgusting crap hole in Highland Park.
Yeah.
I got in for what I could afford because Highland Park's really expensive. And I almost doubled the price of that house by very minimal updates like paint and windows. I think that's pretty much all I did. Yeah.
And over what period of time?
I sold it in 2024, so 4 years.
Good Lord, good for you.
Talk about that ROI. At least Jessica knows.
My grandfather gave me 2 pieces of advice. He said, well, because we were in a suburb of New York City. Yeah. And he said, you always buy off the train line, because the train line was how people got into work. Mm-hmm. But if you translate that to here in Dallas, it's still true, but it's the freeway line.
Is that right? Okay.
The money follows the freeway line. And in most big cities, like in Philadelphia, they call it the main line. the money, like in terms of like the expense of the neighborhood, it goes, wherever the hub for financial services, banks, hire big hiring companies, and then the train line, the freeway line, the money follows.
Isn't that interesting?
I like that.
My grandfather, rest in peace, was such a smart man. He was a pilot for Pan Am.
Was he really? Awesome.
Good guy.
I'm going to ask you a question, even though it's your show, Jessica, because I keep interrupting you. I apologize. I don't mean to. What's your outlook on the real estate market for 2025?
That's a great question. So I get these MAGA texts, Make America Great Again texts. I did contribute to the campaign. Some people want to hate me. I understand, but I did. And I get these updates all the time. And I think it was March 18th, I got a text and it said, we're going through a short-term recession while things readjust, and just prepare for that was the gist of the text. And I think that we've been going through it, but I appreciate the fact that our leader has said, hey, this is actually happening. Do something to take care of yourself in the meanwhile. So no matter what side you're on politically, there's going to be two things that happen. One is going to be fear, which we're seeing in the stock market. And then the other thing that's going to happen is there's going to be people who are smart enough to take advantage. So there's going to be people that say, hey, buy low. This is low. We're buying. And you can wedge yourself where the opportunities are. So if you are somebody that knows how to do short sales, I'm taking probably 5 or 6 short sales a month at this point, because a lot of people have more credit card debt and different things than they did previously, to where they cannot pay their mortgages and their home is underwater. We're having to negotiate hardships for them so that they can qualify for approved short sale. You should definitely, if you're a realtor, learn how to do creative financing or work with someone who does creative financing in sub 2, novations, wholesaling. They're going to be your best friend. There's going to be a lot of deals you cannot sell in the open market, but you can find a creative option for. So to answer your question, there's a lot of opportunities out there. It depends on what you're looking for. If you are a buyer, there's deals. If you are a seller, you have to know your value and you have to be realistic, and it has to serve a purpose. If you're just selling your home because you want a nicer yard, this is not the market for you, unless you have a ton of equity.
Interesting. I'm glad I asked.
That was probably more information than you wanted to hear.
No, that was really interesting. Thank you.
My pleasure. So I've enjoyed our time together, gentlemen. If people would like to reach you, what is the best way to get in touch with Richard Stewart?
Phone is best. I'm kind of an old school sort of guy. Just text or call me at 303.
Hold on, let me put it in the chat for them. Go ahead, 303.
303-478-3525.
3525.
303-478-3525.
And
I'm a dinosaur, Jessica. I do business over the phone.
I love it. I still do too. I'm a door knocker and cold caller. It doesn't get any more dinosaur than that. So how about you, Nick? What's the best way for someone who wants to learn more about your products and pick your brain to get in touch with you?
Phone number is great, and I can give you Instagram and as well, but 903-243-7246 is my phone number. And you can follow me on Instagram at Nick, NICK __ Hancock, HANCOCK.
Okay, awesome.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
Richard had mentioned earlier that he feels like he should be taking videos of closings. Nick will allow you to do that as long as the buyer and seller are cool with it. I've seen a lot of Nick works with a lot of social media influencers, and I've seen a lot of their closings.
Yes, yeah.
You just got to get into it.
Yeah, get you a good little interview. I think would be great.
Just got to get into the habit of it. I mean, I just spoke to 35 realtors, flew out to Chicago to do the presentation, and then before I knew it, it was done. Everybody was walking out. I'm like, darn, I didn't get a photo or a video again.
Come on,
So-
Richard.
Richard, you always got to have a videographer in the room at all times.
Evidently, yeah. Learn.
You got this, so it existed.
Yep. Well,
there
this
you
has been a true pleasure, gentlemen. If there's anything else that we can do to serve you, reach out to me. I can get you in touch with Richard or with Nick. Go be great and close more deals.
Thanks for having us. See ya.